Around 2006, I was driving a flatbed, picking up a load of construction material in rural Tennessee. Tarp was required, so I strapped everything down, tarped the load, and left the shipper. About 5 miles down the road, in the middle of nowhere backwoods country on a 2-lane road, I noticed my tarp flapping in the wind. I found a wide shoulder and pulled over to fix it. I realized that I did a shitty job tarping this load and decided to redo it on the side of the road. Undo all the bungee straps, drag the tarps off, roll them back up. I climb up on the load and start unrolling the tarps again as I see a guy walking down the same side of the road I'm on, coming towards my truck. I don't think anything about it other than to keep an eye on him because I'm in the middle of nowhere, and I continue what I'm doing. About the time I have the tarp set in place and I'm climbing down to start hooking the bungee straps back on, this dude is getting close enough that I'm now paying more attention to him than I am to tarping my load. I grab my winch bar and set it on the trailer where I'm working, just in case. The guy gets to me, and the first thing I notice is his hair. It's like a mullet, but it's patchy and messy. The next thing is his eyes, which I can only describe as off. They were clear. I didn't think he was drunk or high or anything, but it also gave me the distinct impression that he wasn't all there. His clothes were dirty and not well maintained, with dirty white tennis shoes. The strangest part was his hands and arms. They were hairy like some sort of animal, and his nails looked more like claws than fingernails. He stops by me, waits until I acknowledge him, and just says, "I've got a long walk." I'm like, "Yeah, man, you do. We're in the middle of nowhere," making it clear there's no ride to be had here. He nods, starts walking by me, continuing on his way, stops at about the driver door on my truck and turns around, comes back to me and repeats himself. "I've got a long walk." At this point, I explain that I can't give him a ride, insurance and all that. Apologize for not being able to help him out, and he seems to accept this, turns around, and leaves. I wait for him to get a little ways away from my truck and start working on finishing the tarp job. I still keep an eye on him and he's moving away from me. As I'm putting on the last of the bungee straps, I look over to check where he's at. But he's gone. Nowhere to be found, like he went up in smoke. Creeped out, I finish with the straps, grab my winch bar, and head back towards the truck cockpit. This is when I hear a noise to my right, like a branch snapping. And there, standing just beyond the tree line, is the man from before, just staring at me. I wonder how long he's been standing there. The man starts coming towards me, and I'm not about to find out what he wants. I run towards the cockpit, barely making it in time, as I hear him slam into the door as I close it. I lock the doors and speed out of there as fast as I can. When I look in the side mirror as I'm driving away, I could swear I see the man chasing after me on all four like some sort of creature. I don't know what I encountered that day in the backwoods of Tennessee, but I don't believe it was completely human. But whatever it was, I will never forget. I was driving through eastern Washington on some state roads, looking for a place to sleep after a long shift. There were no rest stops or cities nearby, but I had done the route enough to know there were these massive dirt areas every 40 miles or so where you could park safely away from the road. Eventually, I found one of these dirt areas, and when I arrived, there was no one around. It was late, and I was exhausted, so I decided to call it a night. I closed my blinds, secured my doors and windows, and laid down to watch something on my phone. After roughly an hour, I hear someone try to open the driver's side door. I haven't heard any vehicles on the road the whole time I'm parked, but I get up to peek out the curtains. As I'm looking out into the blackness of the driver's side window, I hear them try the passenger side door. I peek down from the top of the curtain, but can't see anything, so I start the truck and kick on the lights. I'm fairly freaked out at this point, so I'm still not opening the curtains but peeking through gaps. Nothing, nobody is standing near either of my doors or parked within sightline. I take a deep breath and close the sleeper curtains too, because for some reason that's going to make things better, right? After laying back down and convincing myself that something blew against the truck, and it only sounded like the doors, I hear what sounds like someone trying to pry open the vents on the sleeper. The door handles start clicking again, and the truck starts shifting like someone is climbing on it. I hit the little alarm button in the sleeper, hoping to spook them off, but it does nothing but add to the noise of door handles, fingers tapping on windows and chassis, and the hiss of air coming out of the suspension. Then suddenly, it stops. A few moments where I can only hear myself breathing and my heart pounding before I hear another truck approach and then drive by. I spent the next few hours waiting for whatever it was to come back, but it never did. In the morning, I couldn't find any footprints or damage to my truck, but on every window were tiny human-looking handprints, like a toddler had licked their hand and stuck it to my window over and over. In all my years of being a truck driver, I have never experienced anything as bone-chillingly terrifying as that night. Those handprints and the fact that there were no footprints around still keep me up at night. I was driving through California one night and started to get sleepy. I pulled out on the side of the road and decided to take a nap. The load I was picking up got rescheduled, and so I decided to just hang out where I was until it was closer to my normal drive time, which was at night. I was starting to learn how to do astrophotography, and where I was parked was a pretty decent spot. Nice and dark, not a lot of traffic at night, so I decided I would try and practice some shots. I climbed up onto the top of my trailer, just above my reefer unit on the edge, and sat there learning how to do aperture settings and all that. All of a sudden, I hear a noise coming from the brush directly below me. I felt pretty safe in the knowledge that no animal was climbing up this high of a trailer. I picked up my flashlight and started looking around the ground for the sound, but to my surprise, I found absolutely nothing. So I wrote it off to wind and went back to figuring out camera settings. About 2 minutes later, I heard it again, this time a little further down my trailer, so I shined my flashlight out there again. Yet again, nothing. Just brush. By this time, I was starting to get concerned about what I was hearing. The sound I was hearing didn't sound like a small animal, but more like someone moving around below me. The passenger door to my truck was locked, but I left the driver door unlocked, and since I was sitting close to that side of the trailer, I could see if anyone was going to approach it. I turned my light off and go back to what I was doing. About 5 minutes later, I hear someone say, "Hey!" My heart jumped into my throat. I grab my light, stand up on the trailer, and start frantically looking around the edge of the truck. Not a goddamn thing. Nothing. Same as it was before when I searched around with my light. I remain as quiet as possible, still looking around the brush with my light. Whoever was out there, I didn't want them to hear how panicked I was. It felt like time was standing still in this instance, because it was pitch black out and no car or truck had passed in over an hour. Roughly a minute had gone by and I heard my trailer door handle unlock and release. Now thankfully I was empty, so there was no load for anyone to steal. But they didn't open the door. Whoever it was unlocked the trailer door and stopped, as if to draw me to the back of the trailer. I had no time to think about what I was going to do. I snapped out of my panic freeze, jumped down to the catwalk and hit the ground as fast as possible. I jumped in the truck and locked the door, fired up the truck and took off as fast as I could. I drove for about 5 minutes, rarely taking my eyes off my side mirror to see if I was being followed. I felt like it was safe enough for me to pull off and close the door of the trailer. At this point, I'm trembling because of the pure adrenaline running through me. I stopped the truck as fast as I could, bolted to the back and shut the trailer door and locked it. Got back in the truck and left that area as fast as I could.